right now, Rutgers in the spotlight yet again for all the wrong reasons. Is this really the best that they could do? And is it time for the president of Rutgers, not just the AD, to be shown the door? And next, why is it that you can sue toy manufacturers for harmful toys, food distributors for illness-inducing food, but you can't sue a gun manufacturer for anything related to a criminal use of a gun? We're going to hear from an expert who'll try to explain why. And later, Obama and Christie forever together. The bromance, it got even more magical yesterday as they strolled down the Jersey Shore. But will this hurt Christie come the next election? Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thanks so much for joining us this Wednesday evening, May 29th. And let's start tonight with that Rutgers scandal. It's been less than 3 months since the men's basketball coach, Mike Rice, he was canned for exhibiting some of the most abusive behavior you've ever seen on video towards players. And yet, the university still managed to hire a new athletic director who's accused of similar behavior. Governor Christie, he sounded off about the scandal during his monthly call-in radio show just yesterday.
My job is not to run Rutgers. That's the job of the Board of Governors and President Barchi and the General Counsel, John Farmer, all of whom I have respect for. I understand that there's some people who feel differently about it, but it doesn't matter. What matters is, what do the administration at Rutgers believe? And the Board of Governors is fully supportive. President Barchi is fully supportive. And I am supportive of the Board of Governors and President Barchi. Now, I don't know Julie Hermann. I've never met Julie Hermann. I've never spoken to Julie Hermann. I wasn't involved in her recruiting or her vetting or anything else, as I should not be. I'm the governor of New Jersey. I'm not the recruiter for Rutgers University. And so my point on all this is, let Rutgers handle this.
Who was that guy? Chris Christie, the same guy that we know and some love here, who has never been short of an opinion on any subject, let alone anything to do with New Jersey, where he'll put his handprint and footprint on, is saying, no, my up. I'm going to stay out of this. I don't want to meddle here. Okay. Let's back up with this, though, and I want to bring in Andrew Whitman for the backstory of how we got from there to here, and where you see Governor Christie in an unfamiliar position of backpedaling and saying, I'm going to stay out of it.
It seems like we've been telling the story for a long time, Rich, but it's really only the last several months. You'll remember that Rutgers became embroiled in scandal just back in April when videotape surfaced showing the Rutgers men's basketball coach, Mike Rice, assaulting his players and spewing homophobic slurs at them. He can be seen on the video hurling basketballs at players' heads and screaming profanities. Also taken down by the scandal was the Rutgers athletic director, Tim Pernetti. He stepped down because he had learned about Rice's misconduct months earlier, but chose only to fine and suspend the coach. Then in came Eddie Jordan, the man who replaced Rice as the new men's basketball coach. Turns out he never even got a degree from Rutgers like he had claimed. Meanwhile, Julie Hermann was hired to take over as athletic director. This was supposed to signal the dawn of a new day at Rutgers.
We will no longer have any practice anywhere, anytime that anybody couldn't walk into and be pleased about what's going on in that environment.
But now Hermann is accused of exhibiting behavior similar to Mike Rice's while coaching the University of Tennessee's women's volleyball team. She quit as Tennessee's women's volleyball coach 16 years ago after her players submitted a letter complaining that she ruled through humiliation and emotional abuse. In the letter submitted by all 15 team members, the players wrote, quote, "The mental cruelty that we as a team have suffered is unbearable."
She told us that we're fat, we're stupid, we're whores, we're alcoholics, berating, not letting us shower or eat from our road trip from Florida to Tennessee.
Former governor, now state senator Richard Codey says taxpayer money spent on an executive search firm to find a new Rutgers athletic director was a waste because Hermann wasn't even on the list of candidates vetted by that firm.
Somehow, some way, she was slipped into the mix and winds up with the job without being properly vetted.
Codey also took to the radio waves to blast Christie for his hands-off approach on this.
Is he a take charge guy or what? I mean, he decides who the janitor is at night in the State House. And now he's taking a hands-off approach. Oh, that's Rutgers' problem. They've got to make the decisions. I can't micromanage. He is a micromanager like we've never seen before. I mean, if you dare say anything that he thinks is untoward to him, he'll call you up and yell at you. So all of a sudden, but there's a lot of politics here.
But for now, the university is standing by their pick. Rich?
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. And for more, let's bring in Tara Sullivan, sports columnist at the Bergen Record. Tara, thanks for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Well, from the outside, at least looking in, you couldn't make this up if you tried. If there was one school in the country you'd think the due diligence post the Coach Rice era, it would have been Rutgers, that we wouldn't have this. You've looked into the vetting process, the search committee. From what they tell us versus what is reality, what have you learned?
What Rutgers advertised is not what they delivered. For as much as they told us it was going to be a thorough and deliberative search, I spoke with someone who had direct knowledge of how the advisory committee was involved, and they were left out of the process from very early on and really only included at the very last minute, and that they barely had time really to ask the questions they wanted, and they really weren't given as much of the background, clearly any of the issues that have since come to light. So my information is that it wasn't what Rutgers advertised at all.
I mean, you go through this chapter and verse from even the replacement for Rice, and everybody says Jordan's a nice guy here, but coach at Notre Dame got fired for misrepresenting what was on his resume as being a graduate, or whether it be Warwick or whatever else. It's amazing. It's like the Keystone Cops here. What are you more surprised about? How wrong they've gotten this since the Rice fiasco and even leading up to it, or the response from the governor here, in that he's in many ways saying, President Barchi, I've got his back. A lot of people expected he'd be the loudest critic of all this, but instead he's become the biggest supporter.
There are plenty of things to be surprised at, and foremost to me is just how poorly the Rutgers administration from the top down has handled so many of these decisions. Just that a school that had made so many mistakes didn't go into this particular process so mindful of being really, really deliberate as they claimed they were going to be. And then, of course, you're right, the governor's reaction is surprising. In the past he has gotten involved in decisions at Rutgers, and to say now that he doesn't want to micromanage, to me, is just curious. I'm not sure, I am sure it's because they're doing a big merger with the medical school and he can't afford to take the president out of his position right now. But it is surprising, you're right.
It may be inside baseball, but for those who don't know, Dick Codey, the one-time acting governor and obviously a state legislator, him and Christie, they've never exchanged Christmas cards, but nonetheless, he had a couple great lines on this one. He said, it looks like the search committee couldn't find Lindsay Lohan in a nightclub. And he went on to even call Hermann, the new AD, an outright liar, and he called into question the idea that Christie wouldn't micromanage this. Where does this go, Tara? It seems almost inevitable the more that keeps coming out. Now we know about the Louisville incident, et cetera. It's going to be tough for Hermann to survive. At least it seems that way from the outside. What are you hearing closer to campus?
Well, as of today, I'm still hearing that Rutgers has dug in. Are insistent that they're going to move forward with this decision. But you are absolutely correct. To me, the longer it goes on, the more difficult it is to imagine Julie Hermann being an effective leader, because she's coming into a position at a school that needs tons of help in this position. And to me, coming in with this much baggage is going to make her job very, very difficult.
And just so anybody at home doesn't think that, this was, it took a CIA investigation to find this out. Tara, in going through Hermann's background and just a simple background piece, they found out in a matter of the first 4 or 5 phone calls, Porter broke this story, what happened at Tennessee. This was there for the finding if somebody just did the basic due diligence, right?
Well, that's my understanding, yeah, that the Star-Ledger reporter just was doing a profile and this stuff came up and it was discovered. You try to talk to people from somebody's past. What were they like back then? You generally expect to get, some amusing anecdotes or something, and they found this instead. And in fact, now in the ensuing days that so many Rutgers officials have denied the existence of the letter from those volleyball players, that one of them went public on her own blog today to say that's unfair. Don't tell us we're not telling the truth and we know all this happened. So it's hard to understand how Rutgers didn't manage to find out that information when other people obviously did.
Can't make this stuff up if you try. Tara Sullivan, thank you so much. I appreciate a few minutes.
My pleasure. Thank you.